Hello and welcome back to section 1.2 of the first lesson of this workshop series on Cleromancy and Divination. My name is Juan and I am a spirituality coach with experience using tarot and other forms of divination the past 10 years. Today in this segment I want to introduce the cardinal signs of the Zodiac and how to integrate those sun signs into our Cleromancy readings. But first, before moving forward, I kind of wanted to go over just some of the basics from the first lesson, on the first segment of the first lesson, which I talked about some of the basic materials that you'll need if you want to follow along in this series. So you need a tray like this to hold the dice in place when they are being cast. You'll need to select some kind of symbol that you identify with. In this example, I use a circle, a Zen symbol here of the circle, which to me stands for unity, integration, wholeness, and the self. And of course, I'm using three basic black and white D6 dice for our questions. And for now, that's all you'll need. And of course, it helps if you are taking notes in a journal or are reflecting on your readings along the way. So, in our previous lesson, I also taught how to cast a simple yes or no and a question to the oracle. And we used the three dice in order to get an answer. And we reviewed that basically if the majority of the dice fall inside the circle, the answer to our question is most likely a yes. If most fall outside the circle, it's a very likely no. Or we get a mixture of combinations of two dice inside and one outside, a strong or likely yes, and if we get two outside the circle and one inside the circle, the answer to our question is a likely no. And of course, dice can be positioned also on the border of the circle, which adds nuance to our interpretation as we look at the position of the dice relative to each other. So, having reviewed that, we're going to go now to talk about the zodiac signs, namely the cardinal signs. So the cardinal signs of the zodiac are the typical initiators, leaders, and visionaries. These zodiac signs start each season and are associated with initiating action and setting the tone for that season. So the four cardinal signs of the zodiac include Aries, March 21st to April 19th, Cancer, June 21st to July 22nd, Libra, September 23rd to October 22nd, and Capricorn, December 22nd to January 19th. Those are the dates associated with individuals who were born on those days or dates of the year. So now that we know that the cardinal signs typically include those who are initiators, leaders, and visionaries, I wanted to ask first an open-ended question. So, and as we go through each sign, we'll continue practicing yes or no questions. So now I'm going to introduce asking an open-ended question. So for example, we can ask for the cardinal signs, for the zodiac cardinal signs, what are some things to keep in mind, generally speaking, for individuals who identify as Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, with respect to their characteristics and strengths? Let's see what kind of answer we get from the oracle. Ooh, interesting. All right. So, in this reading, we have the following results. Let me move the tray a little bit so you can see the die that fell outside the circle. So, for the first two dice inside the circle, we see that they're both ones. And outside the circle, we have a 6. So let's pause for a moment and think about the possible meanings of these placements and numbers. Okay. You can also continue to pause the video if you need more time. Let's see here. So we have an emphasis of a 1. We have a 1 repeating twice inside the circle. And we have a 6 outside. So let's talk about what's inside the circle, which is 2 1s. So, as cardinal signs, number 1 is emphasized. And as we learned, cardinal signs are initiators. They're the first ones. They're the pioneers. They're the ones who usher in new things, new projects, new ideas. So one thing that kind of unifies these signs is the number 1, which is a symbol of unity and initiating something new, new beginnings, a fresh start. So that's something to keep in mind for the cardinal signs. So remember that they are initiators and leaders, and that's one of their strongest aspects according to our current reading. Now, let's take a look at what's outside the circle. This number 6 here. So as we discussed earlier, what's outside the circle is what is yet to integrate into ourselves. So while naturally the cardinal signs are natural born leaders and initiators, there's one thing to be mindful of for these signs, which is the concept of harmony and balance. So number 6 to me means just that. It is the completion of a cycle, bringing things to an end or to completion. 6 stands for harmony, maintaining balance. So as we reflect on the qualities of each sign specifically, we may come across this idea of balance and harmony over and over again, possibly. We'll have to see. But for now, these are the things that we are asked to be mindful of as those who identify with cardinal signs, whether they are in your sun sign of your horoscope, your moon, or your rising sign. If you don't know what those terms mean, I would suggest watching other tutorials that kind of talk about astrology in more detail. But for now, we just need to know that, if you identify with these cardinal signs, that's all good for now. So we don't overload ourselves with information. All right. So now we're going to take a moment and pause. You can feel free to pause the video and add comments of your own. And we can continue to go over each of the signs. So, one of the cardinal signs, the first cardinal sign, is the sign of Aries, whose dates range from March 21st to April 19. Aries is characterized by the element of fire. Specific characteristics to Aries include boldness, passion, energy, and independence. And the strengths of Aries are courage, determination, leadership, and enthusiasm. So, those having heard about these characteristics and strengths, let's ask a yes or no question to the oracle. Let's see. Good question for an Aries sign. I think a good question is, will I be successful in with my current goals that I've set myself for the year? So, reflecting on those resolutions, on those goals, it is still early in the year. And Aries may ask, will I succeed in my endeavors or goals that I've set for myself this year? Let's see what the oracle would comment on a characteristic of Aries as initiating projects, new ventures, and setting goals for oneself. All right. So here we have, let me bring this closer. Let's bring this without touching the dice. We adjust the camera. Perfect. So here we have the 3 dice, 2 of which are in the circle and 1 of which is outside the circle. So as an Aries who possesses courage and determination, they are very likely to complete their goals, especially for this year. In the 2 dice inside the circle, we have 2 repeating 4s. And the 4 typically stands for foundation, laying the groundwork, and having that determination to see things through. So number 4 emphasizes that Aries would set the foundation to ensure success of achieving those goals. So the short answer to the question, whether or not an Aries might succeed in completing their goals this year, it is a likely yes. Now, we do have 1 die outside the circle, this lonely 5 here, and the 5 stands for here in respect to the circle, while the inside of the circle shows the characteristics that an Aries might naturally possess already. The outside here represents those external circumstances which may stand in the way of Aries' completion of their goals. So here we have a 5. 5 is a challenging number. It is an opposition. It is the last, the second to last number before completion of number 6 on the dice. So this means that Aries needs to be mindful of how they tackle or how they respond whenever they encounter a brick wall, the proverbial brick wall, or challenges or obstacles before completing their goals. So in this case, while they naturally may have that foundation, that groundwork already in motion, and they are initiating it, they must learn how to get around these obstacles, as shown by the 5. So this is how a reading for Aries might sound like. So it is a likely guess, but it's not for certain because, things might bubble up that may interfere with some of the goals an Aries might have set for themselves this year. So that's a sample reading for an Aries, respect to goal completion. We can pause the video, and if you have any comments or your own interpretation, feel free to write in the comments before we move on to the sign of Cancer. Alright, so let's talk about Cancer. The zodiac sign Cancer, whose date range includes June 21st to July 22nd. So, the element associated with Cancer is water, and the characteristics of a typical Cancer include their nurturing nature, as well as their intuition, their empathy, and they're prone to being protectors. And some of the strengths that Cancer may possess include compassion, higher levels of compassion, loyalty, emotional intelligence, and being supportive of others. So knowing all this, a Cancer might ask at times, as an example, whether or not they're being too empathetic and too intuitive or too much of an empath. Like, am I giving myself too much, to a significant other? So sometimes it's good to reflect on that when we're giving away a lot of not just our mental energy, but our emotional energy when trying to support our loved ones. So maybe a Cancer might ask, am I giving myself too much to, my significant others and loved ones? Let's see what the Oracle might say about that. Interesting. All right. So here we have all three all three dice inside the circle. So to answer the question, succinctly, am I giving myself too much to my loved ones? That maybe a question a Cancer might ask. I would say that that's a resounding yes. And here we have, again, as I mentioned earlier in this reading, that we might come across a 6 and a 1 naturally, because this is a cardinal sign. They're the ones who initiate. They're leaders. They're visionaries. So number 1 is there 2 times, and number 6 is there 1 time. So again, as we saw in our first general reading for the cardinal signs, number 6 stands for harmony and balance. So a Cancer, because of their nature of being nurturing, intuitive, empathetic, and protective, they have the capacity to reflect on their boundaries clearly, especially emotional boundaries. So, in this case, it is a reminder for Cancer to reflect on the concept of balance and boundaries, as shown by number 6, as well as the other dice here, the remaining dice inside circle, 1, which stands for independence, unity, wholeness. So, when feeling emotionally drained, it's a good time to kind of pause and identify what sources are draining our energy away, or where are we giving ourselves too much to. So in this particular case, it is a strong reminder that emphasizes keeping in balance, in harmony, our independence. Number 1, being able to provide support as needed, but maintaining our independence and our ability to have compassion for ourselves before we can assist other people. Because, as the saying goes, if you're in an airplane, the mask falls off from the top. We put on ourselves the mask before helping others. So this is what a reading might be like for someone who is identifies with the sign of Cancer. Now, let's pause the video. Any comments, please feel free to write them down, as we are continuing our second segment on the cardinal signs of the Zodiac and how to incorporate them into our Cleromancy readings. Alright, moving on to the next section for the sign of Libra, whose date range includes those born between September 23rd and October 22nd. The sign of Libra, the element sign of Libra, is air, and the characteristics include diplomacy, fairness, charm, and those who are relationship-oriented. And the strengths for a Libra would include balance, cooperative, or cooperation with others, social, and idealistic. Some of the strengths that would characterize a Libra, for example. So now, when I think of Libras, I think often of individuals who are very much who very much emphasize fairness. So at times, though, a Libra may not necessarily be able to see a situation for what it is because of other reasons. So they might ask, for example, let's shift gears and think about the workplace. You can maybe ask as a Libra, is my job treating me fairly with the respect that I deserve? Let's see what the dice have revealed about that question. Am I being treated fairly at my job with the respect that I deserve? Ooh, all right. So, again, we see numbers repeating, numbers that we've seen before in our previous readings. So first, let's think about the answer. Here, the answer is a clear no. We have here 2 repeating 1s and a 5. So again, the one emphasizes here is being emphasized twice, which means that in this particular example, maybe this particular person who identifies as a Libra is or lacks being able to act on their own, and whose independence and being able to exert their self-determination, their agency. Maybe they're being restricted from that at their current workplace, as emphasized by their one repeating twice. Their ambition and their leadership is being stifled, and they're not able to accomplish their goals for whatever reason by external factors. This 5 right here may stand for either oppressive processes at their workplace or other people or upper management who just doesn't let you be or do what you're supposed to be doing in your position. So here it is a resounding no in this sample reading. And again, it kind of emphasizes the general qualities of a cardinal sign, which indicate natural leadership and those who are initiators. So this reading does definitely make sense. So again, we're going to pause. Any questions or comments in the section. If you are a Libra, tell me what this means to you in terms of the question, the sample question I asked. Does it feel like at times you are constantly trying to assert yourself at work to ensure a just and fair environment? Tell us more. Good. So the last but not least, in the sign of the last cardinal sign, certainly not least, is a sign of Capricorn, whose date range includes those born between December 22nd and January 19. The element of a Capricorn is Earth, and some of the characteristics that point to Capricorns are they're known for their discipline, their ambitions, their practicality, and their responsibility. And some of the strengths that they may possess include diligence, patience, resourcefulness, and determination. So, as we explore this sign a little bit further with a yes or no question, let's pause for a second and think about, what kind of question can we ask the Oracle if, let's say, we were a Capricorn. So let's imagine ourselves as Capricorns for a second and think about, what may be some of the things that we could bring to awareness to ourselves as a sun sign Capricorn. Okay. So I think that if I were a Capricorn, if I wanted to, practice my self-awareness, I would ask, am I doing too much at work? Am I overexerting my abilities? Am I giving myself way too much of my hard labor without getting compensated for what I'm worth? Let's see what the Oracle reveals. The sample question that a Capricorn might ask. All right. Again, repeating numbers. We see number 4 again, number 5 again, and number 1 again. So let's think about this for a second. And the short answer to the question, am I giving myself too much? Am I working too hard with little or no compensation for what I'm truly worth at my job? Yes, it is a likely yes. And here are the reasons why that might be. So we have here in what's inside the circle here is what is already been integrated into our self, meaning that we're able to deal with challenges and a lot of tasks at work by this number 5. Again, 5 is a number of challenge and opposition, because we have the foundation or those natural inclinations to take care of business. So yes, we are doing what we're supposed to be doing at work, but maybe we're not being paid what we are truly worth, as an example. Let's see what's outside the circle. It's a 1. Now, we saw that number 1 typically stands for independence, unity, wholeness, initiating. So in this case, what's outside the circle here can maybe pinpoint to the root of this problem. So here, I would say that what's outside the circle stands for, and here's where I need to look at my notes, because this one's a little bit tricky. So I know if being independent might not be the reason why we're giving ourselves too much, or could it be? Because if we're independent, we're not maybe getting help from others, and we're the ones doing it all. I would say that's a pretty good reason why we may feel that way, and feeling that we're giving ourselves way too much of ourselves. So according to my note, the number 1 can stand for creation, individuality, potential, and focus. Number 1 represents the beginning of all things, a spark of inspiration or seed of possibility. It symbolizes independence, leadership, and the pursuit of singular goals. So maybe, a reason why we feel so drained and giving ourselves way too much is that we've taken on our own a variety of different tasks and challenges, and not getting the support that we need to alleviate some of that stress. That makes sense to me. But if you have other ideas, please let us know. But I would say that, this is also represents a part of Capricorn asking that question. They may be the only ones being able to do all these things, and they're not being compensated sufficiently for what they do. So, having said all this concludes the cardinal signs and some sample readings that we've gone over. If you have any questions or any additional thoughts or ideas, please feel free to share. Also, if you like this series so far and what you're seeing, please feel free to like the video and share it with others who might be interested in this subject matter. Thank you for joining us in this first lesson, and see you next time.